just from that, we should already be worried that something is happening because now they've went to, a place where that was happening, or they were exposed to, the substance use. So you might also wonder that, in everything happening, the relapse happening, and you having to be there for the loved one after their recovery and during their recovery, how do you then maintain that hope when they relapse? So it's really important to maintain hope as a family, because maintaining hope in substance relapse recovery, particularly from the perspective of a family, is of paramount importance for several reasons. And the first one is that alone provides a supportive environment. I think the loved one gets to understand that they're not doing this alone. And when family members obviously also maintain hope, they create not only a safe environment, but also the loved one gets to feel encouraged from what they'll be journeying in, even if they have relapsed. And just in addition to that, um, if you are a loved one and you're from a supportive environment, this fosters a sense of safety, trust, and you get to feel that you're accepted, which all these aspects are very important in the healing process of an individual. And it also gets to provide motivation. So hope provides motivation for family members to remain actively involved in their loved one's recovery journey. It also encourages them to continue offering support, seeking resources, and advocating for their loved ones. It also provides a sense of resilience. So, through the family maintaining hope, it helps the family members develop resilience in the face of relapse. It also enables them to bounce back from the disappointment, frustration, feelings of helplessness, and to also remain committed to supporting their loved one through the ups and downs, because we have to admit it really can be difficult having to support someone after something like that has happened, but they still need you. And it also provides a positive outlook. So, hope cultivates a positive outlook for both the individual in recovery and their family members. So, it helps in the sense that it shifts the focus from the past relapses of setbacks to the potential of growth. And also, you get to learn from that, and you get to want progress in the future. And also, it's something that's very empowering in that hopes empowers the family members to take proactive steps to support um, their family member, which is the loved one in recovery. And in that way, they're able to seek out additional treatment option, and also they're able to participate in family therapy of which is what we're seeing now. This is part of being empowered, because you want to understand how you can best support your loved one. And another one is, it also provides a connection and communication. So maintaining hope encourages open and trust communication within the family. It creates a space where family members feel comfortable sharing their concerns, experiences, and emotionally related issues as well that are contributing to the relapse. This, as a result, it helps in fostering a sense of connection and solidarity in the family. So, in addition to that, it also prevents, relapse as well. And you might also wonder that what are strategies to maintain hope? So, you being here, it's part of that, but also being able to attend support group or self care activities, being involved in that, and also just positive affirmations. It's really, really important. So, for example, you might also wonder, how do you do that? So, if a family member continues to attend support groups and are reminded that the loved ones sorry so if a family member continues to attend support groups and reminded the loved ones and are reminded of their loved ones during difficult times, it may play a significant role because they may know how to best support them. And just in relation to communication and support, it is important to, have that open and honest communication with your loved one. So, the reason why that is important is that struggling with addiction often leads to a sense of isolation and shame, making recovery even more challenging. So, communication can be used to just reduce those feelings of shame, isolation by openly communicating to others about your experiences. So, in that way, you can feel that you're not alone in your struggle. And there are certain also strategies for effective communication, which is being able to actively listen to your loved one, providing that empathy and a non judgmental space. So it's important for families to create a space for it's important for the loved ones to create that space to be able to communicate and talk about the struggles without the loved one even having to feel judged or criticized despite them relapsing. So you might also wonder, how do you then seek a professional help? So this is just, an overall treatment options. And just in relation to that, one of the important things that, one has to consider as a family member is obviously them getting, psychotherapy, which provides obviously a safe space to process emotional, behavioral, and psychological impact of the relapse because they might feel like they've failed themselves and they've failed the families as well because that also brings a lot of disappointment, not only to self, but to the family. So they might need a space to just process that for themselves as well, and also supportive groups, which is, I think, something that we have. And, even in rehab now in Changes, we get to have these supportive groups, every day. So it offers a sense of universality because then they feel that they're not alone and they're supported as well, despite the fact that they have relapsed. And they get to also see, a psychiatrist as well, just to manage whatever symptoms that they'll be experiencing at that particular point in time. But another point why it's very important to seek a professional help is that you get to also get an objective perspective because we have to remember that professionals can offer an objective, perspective on a situation, helping families navigate through the challenges of relapse without being clouded by emotions or biases. So they can help our families understand the dynamics at play, identify unhealthy patterns, and develop also just coping strategies that are appropriate. And then just in addition to that, it's important to note that after after a relapse, for families to after a relapse, it's important for families to encourage their loved ones to seek either counseling, medical support to address underlying mental health condition, including support for themselves as well. And I think you being that, it's you also doing that. And we also are wondering also, how do we provide self-care and boundaries to our loved ones when relapse has happened? So it's important for us as families to have that self-care, uh, because then we get to be able to we get to be able to take care of our loved one if we are okay, because you can imagine, how will I be able to take care of my loved one if I'm not okay? You know, so it's important for a family member to take time for their own self care, recognizing that they can support a loved one if they're burnt out or not well themselves. So, strategies for setting boundaries, you have to prioritize your own needs, taking breaks, and seeking support yourself. I understand that prioritizing your own needs can be something that's very important, but it has to happen like that, unfortunately, for you to create those boundaries. And also, self care for family members is crucial during a loved one's rehab journey, because you need that emotional resilience. Because coping with a loved one's addiction and recovery process can be emotionally draining. So, self care, as a result, helps family members build the resilience, enabling them to provide that consistent support as well. So you also taking care of yourself, it prevents a burnout. So the stress and challenges of supporting someone in rehab can lead to a burnout, because you feel like you've been doing this repetitively, and it becomes a lot, either emotionally, you just become exhausted, right? So this is you making sure that you are taking that self-care serious. It's really important, and it's something that has to be regular as well. You can choose how you do your self-care as well, because it can prevent the exhaustion, ensuring family members can sustain their environment over a long time.
Sibongile, before I move on to the next slide, I just want to add to that. And I think it's something that often comes up in these presentations is the importance of self-care and the importance of boundaries. And I think you touched on something quite important. I think for a lot of us, we feel that it's maybe something that's selfish and that we shouldn't be doing that. But it is so necessary to be doing that. And if your loved one is currently in treatment, it's even more important to be doing that, you know. They're in a safe place and it's time to look after yourself as well. So like you said, they prioritize your own needs, take breaks, look for your own support system. This is a great place to start. We often recommend, the other support groups like Al-Anon, Narcanon, all of those. But yeah, go back to the things that you used to enjoy doing, friends that maybe you've lost contact with, hobbies that you've let slide. Self-care is just, we cannot stress it enough, and it comes up almost every single week in some form of or another. And I just want to again say that it's not something that's selfish. It's something that is so needed. We can't pour from an empty cup, so we need to make sure that our cup is full. Otherwise, we just have nothing to give.
So with you providing self-care, it also helps in maintaining well-being, and also modeling healthy behavior. So um, it also enhances patience and understanding. So just going back in terms of maintaining well-being, it means that you're prioritizing self-care. You prioritizing self-care promotes overall well-being and physical exercise. You can do things like physical exercise, proper nutrition. It's all part of it. You having to, have sufficient sleep, contribute to better health, allowing family members to navigate these challenges more effectively, and also modeling healthy behavior. So, this by practicing self care, family members set an example for their loved one that is already in rehab, demonstrating healthy coping mechanism, because you'd find that this is something that they struggle with the most. Just healthy coping mechanisms, and self care practices also encourages the individual to adopt similar strategies as a result, because it's something that has been normalized at home, and also just enhancing patience and understanding. So here it's taking time for self-care, which fosters patience and understanding. So when family members are emotionally balanced, they're better equipped to, empathize with their loved one's struggle and setback. So just in relation to self-care activities, I think I've touched on setting those personal boundaries, which are very, very important. So you establish clear boundaries um, to balance your support for your loved one while also protecting your own well-being. So this is part of self-care activity, and it's important to note that this may involve defining the limits. on emotional involvement and responsibility. You can see it that unfortunately this is where I end, this is what I want. Even to say a clear no, it's okay, no matter how hard it is. And also regular exercising and just enough sleep, engaging in mindfulness and meditation activities. So practicing mindfulness or meditation to it's basically important in order to center yourself, to better manage the stress that you will be undergoing through, and promotes a sense of calm as well. Because oftentimes when relapse happens, it comes with a lot of chaos because you don't know what to do, you become so confused. So this engaging in these self-care activities is of paramount importance. I can't stress it enough. So even short daily sessions can be beneficial. And also just to seek support from others, which means connecting with friends, family support groups, to share your experience and emotions. So having a support network can provide understanding and a sense of community because you won't feel that you are alone. That's very important. Schedule that me time that you have not been able to have. It's very, very important. We might take it lightly, but we can be surprised on how much that can do for us. So actively plan moments dedicated solely for yourself, where you're not occupied with what other people are doing or other family members, just you. So it could be reading a book, enjoying a bath, or engaging in any activity that brings you joy and relaxation. You know what are those activities. So start engaging in them. So I mean, when relapse happen, there is a lot of forgiveness that needs to happen and understanding. So you might wonder, why is it important for me to forgive a family member, a loved one who has relapsed? So working on forgiveness is important after a relapse of a loved one because it can help both the individual struggling with addiction and their family members heal and move forward. It also allows a family member to let go of resentment, anger, and hate that was brought by what had happened, which is the relapse. And it also helps the family members to focus on rebuilding the trust and repairing as well. Because when something like that happens in a family, which is relapse, there is a rupture that happens. So forgiveness allows for repairing as well. Forgiveness also fosters empathy, compassion, and understanding within the family, which helps in strengthening the family bonds as a result. So you might also wonder, what are strategies for practicing forgiveness? How do I do that? You can go to family therapy because family therapy offers a space for self reflection, empathy, and communication as well. And one thing that we should also understand in terms of what family therapy also offers, it helps you as family members to acknowledge and validate emotions as well. So, um, I do encourage family members to, I mean, with family members as well, it encourage with family members being able to communicate in one space, one setting, which is family therapy. It encourages family members to express their feelings openly and honestly, encouraging the pain and disappointment, acknowledging the pain and disappointment caused by relapse, and as a result, validate each other's emotions and experiences without judgment or criticism. Because oftentimes, when a relapse happens, you'd find that, as I mentioned, that it's chaotic. You know, there's like anger, there's resentment, there's disappointment. No one gets an opportunity to actually express how that made them feel and how that impacted them, either emotionally or psychologically, because it can take a toll on us as family members. So, through therapy, families are able to work on forgiving past mistakes, recognizing that relapse is a part of the recovery journey. And in terms of moving forward, you also wonder, how do I move forward from this? So there are strategies that are helpful in terms of like moving forward. So moving forward after a relapse can be challenging, but it's a very crucial part of the recovery process for both an individual struggling with addiction and their family members. So just to name a few strategies on how one can move forward or a family member can move forward from something like this. So it's learning from the relapse. So use that relapse as an opportunity for growth and learning, recognizing that setbacks are a natural part of recovery. So by you learning from the relapse, it also encourages open and honest communication about the relapse without judgment and blame. And you get to also reflect on what contributed to the relapse, including triggers, stresses, and underlying issues, while also identifying any patterns and warning sign leading up to the relapse. And you also get to discuss ways to address those issues as well. It's also then important to set new goals when you move forward, right? You might also wonder, how do I, set new goals? This means that you have to collaboratively set realistic and achievable goals for both the loved one in recovery and you as a family, as a whole. And you setting new goals essentially means that you focus on small, incremental steps towards progress rather than overwhelming long term objectives. And as a result, encourage the individual in recovery to identify personal goals related to sobriety, mental health, relationships, career, and other areas of life. And also, while moving forward, it's important to continue seeking support. That's why we say that, even after your loved one has been discharged in our rehab center, you have to continue attending these support groups because they are important. You get to understand how to navigate such issues because you can imagine, if you were not here, you're probably going to miss this and, maybe not have the opportunity to understand how to navigate relapse when it happens. So it also means that after relapse, you may have to work with your loved one to identify triggers and identify a new recovery plan. So, in conclusion, remember that addiction recovery is a long-term process, and your loved one may need ongoing support even after relapse. And your role is crucial in helping them maintain their sobriety. And it's also essential to take care of your own well-being throughout this journey. And it's also important to effectively communicate and continuously take those self-care activities serious and get that ongoing support because it's essential. And just in closing, understand that relapse is a challenge, but with understanding, support, hope, families can navigate it together and move forward. Is there any questions?
If there's any questions, please feel free to raise your hand, or alternatively, you're welcome to put any question into the chat room and then we can just read it and we'd be happy to attend to that. While we maybe wait for one or two questions, Sibongile, I just want to add that I think it's such an important thing to discuss during recovery treatment. It's one of those things we don't really want to talk about because, we hope that it doesn't happen. And that's the ideal. The ideal is that somebody goes into treatment and starts the recovery journey and, doesn't relapse. But like you said, unfortunately, sometimes that is part of the process. In my personal opinion, it's something that I don't really like to condone as being part of the process because we never know what those consequences are. Um, and the sad reality is that so often relapse can lead to death. So when we say it's part of the process, it's not condoning it and saying it's okay. It's okay for it to happen. I think it's just being real about the reality, and the severity and, the fight that's ahead. Um, and I know the chances of successful treatment are so much better if there is family involvement. And I think your presentation focused quite a bit on that, the importance of family involvement, the importance of open communication, the importance of things like family therapy, being able to share your feelings and your thoughts and ask questions. Um, and that kind of also takes place in the form of conjoint meetings, for us at Changes. So um, yeah, again, a difficult topic because sometimes I think we want to have a bit of ostrich syndrome and put our heads in the sand and just hope that it doesn't happen and that it doesn't exist. Um, but it's important, firstly, to know the stages so that we're able to recognize it. It's important to educate ourselves on addiction, again, so we can try and support our loved one and try and be aware of those warning signs. Yeah, so again, I mentioned it last week as well. It's important to remember, though, that we're not responsible for our loved one's recovery. It is their process, though. So, so often we fight so hard to try and prevent it, but it's not our place to do it. We can educate ourselves, and we need to know what our role is, and that's where the boundaries come in. I think, as all that you spoke about, where do I end? Where do you begin? But yeah, thank you so much for a great presentation.